Evening, everyone. Welcome to our November 9th, 2022 planning board meeting. Would you please all rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance? It's all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Having just finished the pledge, I want to remind everybody, we have the parade this Friday. I believe it leaves at the Somers Middle School at 10 or 10:15 or 10:30. So just so you know, marches up here to Ivandale Cemetery. Dave, would you please take the roll? Sorry.
Chairman John Curry.
Here.
Vicky Gannon.
Here.
Nancy Garbino.
Here.
Dennis McNamara.
Here.
Jack Mattis.
Here.
Bruce Prince. Not here. Christopher Zaberto.
Here.
Thank you. First on our agenda is the minutes from October 12th, 2022. And Nancy, did you want to say something?
For the record, left out were comments I made having to do with a contamination site that exists at the tractor. I'm looking on the agenda.
Public hearing one.
That the tractor supply, the proposed tractor supply site. I made a comment that I thought was significant, is there is a site that is being monitored by the state and that it has existed since 1991 when it was first discovered. And it was left off the minutes, that was all. A historic fact. It's a very serious nature. I don't know if anybody's interested, but the state estimates there are about 2,600 cleaning establishments, and more than 1,000 of them have violated their sites over the years, and this is one of them. And as I said, it was discovered in 1991, and they started working on it in 1994. It's being remediated at all times. And as a point of interest, they never let a year go by without remediation. And also, if there's a severe storm, they come and do extra remediation. That's it in a nutshell.
Well, I'm sorry, I misunderstood or didn't hear what you said. What type of businesses were not?
Cleaning.
Dry cleaning.
Dry cleaners.
So,
I'm sorry.
It's a perp contamination or something along
It's
those
permanent. Yeah. It's
lines? The chemicals.
Yes.
yeah. PCD. They give initials.
Yeah, they didn't recycle the chemicals properly.
Okay. And is that a groundwater
Yes,
contamination?
it's
Yes.
permanently, the
soil.
groundwater cannot be used.
How do we know? Well, let's wait till the application comes up. We'll ask those questions.
We'll review and amend the minutes and.
So what we'll do, and then what we'll do is we'll approve them next meeting. Okay. So first on our agenda is the public hearing for the Erstadt properties. It's an application for conversion of the former home goods space to accommodate a proposed tractor supply, including outdoor display area, garden center, and parking modifications. And for the record, the property is in the CS zoning district. It's on Route 6 and Tomahawk Street. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys?
Good.
For the record, Chairman, we do have a notice that the required sign was posted for the property on November 3rd.
Okay, in the paper.
Yes.
Thank you. What I'm going to do for anybody that's here from the public, we'll hear from the applicant, from our consultants and our town planner and any board members, and then I'll open it up to the public.
So we'll just do a brief introduction of the project, and then we'll talk about the comments that now that were received. So good evening, members of the board. My name is Juan Yepes, here on behalf of Erstat Beetle Properties, who's the owner of the Summers Commons Shopping Center, for their project to occupy an existing vacant space, 28,000 square foot, the former Home Goods space, which is over here, with a new Tractor Supply.
It's on mute. Oh,
With a new
We can hear you, Wing.
sorry.
okay, with a new Tractor Supply store, which will occupy that vacant space. Under existing conditions, there's a vacant space and there's an existing grass area. We are proposing to accommodate a new concrete pad area on this side, which is so it will be a new concrete pad under the existing grass area that would be used for outdoor display. It would also have a garden center component to it, which is over here, and a customer pickup drive lane, which is right here. Should be able to enter through here and exit through here. And that's used for pickup of large items. We'll also have a new concrete wall around the pad area in order to level the concrete pad area with the building. So it's just, it's going uphill. We're just gonna level that off, and we need a wall in the perimeter. There will also be an 8-foot fence around that outdoor display area. So that's in a nutshell what we're proposing. There were some comments received from the town planner and the town engineer. The nature of the town comment, the planner's comments, was about the use mostly.
Actually, Juan,
Yes, sir.
Juan, before we get into the comments, I think we should also discuss the history of the site as discussed by the planning board earlier. This area is and has been undergoing an ongoing pump and treat remediation plan under the under the guidance of the DEC, and it does relate to a prior dry cleaning use that was at the property before the site was redeveloped to what it is today. And the compounds that are in both the soil and the groundwater in the area are PCEs, tetrachloroethane. The project also includes modification to the site management plan, where we are working with the DEC, we being Erstat Biddle's environmental consultant, and we are modifying only the wellheads that are located within the outdoor display area, and the ongoing treatment operation will continue. In addition to modifying the wellheads that are in the area and the monitoring wells for the pump and treat operation, also for the monitoring of the ongoing operation, we are also working with DEC to classify the soils to make sure that they're disposed of properly. And we're working with UBP's environmental consultant, and they are in direct contact with DEC, and DEC is aware of the application and the modifications needed to the site management plan. So all of those items are, in the works as we speak. With that, that's an overview of the site, of the project. We're not sure if the board has any comments or questions, or if the public has any comments or questions regarding the proposal.
This information would just elicit a question regarding excavation, and if there's any plans to excavate this grass area to set footings in, let's say, for your concrete pad. And if that's the case, will there be soil sampling to ensure that the material is not contaminated that you remove from the ground? And if it is, what your mitigation plan would be for that as required under numerous environmental statutes, some that we can and some that we can't enforce. But I just want to make sure that we got all that stuff covered.
Right.
No, you are right on point. All of those items are being addressed in the site management plan that's being modified to accommodate both the existing ongoing pump and treat operation as well as what it will be once this is completed. And there is a sampling program that was actually already approved by DEC for this plan. So we could categorize the material to be removed as part of the application. And then during construction, based on the findings of the soil characterizations, which will be done, as well as the sorting operations during construction, those items will be sorted and then disposed of accordingly in accordance with the DEC requirements. And they will be kept abreast of the activities throughout construction.
Thank you.
To follow on to that point, Rob and Juan, have you developed with UBP's environmental consultant areas where that soil sorting would take place on the site?
Yeah, we are planning right now that the sorting operations will occur within the excavation area. And then, Steve, as we discussed as an idea, the environmental consultant is evaluating whether or not we would use the paved area or need to use the paved area immediately page north of the outdoor display area. And that would be the existing parking area between the outdoor display area and the former New York Sports Club use. So if the sorting operations can't occur totally within the work area, that is where we're looking to maybe stockpile materials on the existing pavement with appropriate erosion controls, because that is a good location that is isolated from the operations of the center and also has good access to the egress and access driveways for the property.
Thank you.
Do you have any other comments that you'd like to make on this? Oh, I'm sorry. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could touch on the comments as we go.
Sure. In addition to the comments that we had about providing the board with some more comments on the soil management plan, which I think that they're addressing here. We did ask that the applicant add the location of that extraction piping to the site plan on their utility plan, just so we're all aware of where it is. And then we did have a number of comments on their submitted stormwater pollution prevention plan. They're mostly editorial, a few clarifying items, but we didn't have any major issues with it, just clean up for the record and to make sure that we understood what was being proposed and it had all the required elements from the state and in New York City DEP as well.
So we are currently working on addressing those comments. We were mostly there, like Steven said, we were we were able to address those comments. We believe in pretty good shape to submit that soon. And we believe the piping for the existing system will be shown also on the report that the consultant is doing. So that information will be shown to you.
So again, our comments on the SWIP were minor in nature.
Okay.
We feel like they've addressed the environmental impacts and they've shown the limits of disturbance that they expect to have.
So Dave, do you have any comments?
Just the applicant had provided a kind of a draft letter outlining all of the different types of uses that they were contemplating, which I thought was very helpful because it really flushed out kind of their operations. And I think for the most part, the site plan reflects all those uses with the exception of the veterinary use. And I think that's something that in my brief discussions with Wing, that they may not include it with this application, but they may petition the town board to allow that as a permitted use in this zoning district.
Okay.
So I think that's fine. I think the other comment that I had, Juan, maybe there was a comment in here about the installation and operation of a greenhouse in the fenced outdoor display area. And I don't remember if I saw that on the site plan, if that has been added.
So we have a little handout for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just your name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Andrew Albrecht with Orsted Biddle Properties. I think I can address some of what you just raised and actually follow up to one of the other items that I'd like to discuss tonight. You're correct with the vet services, that is possibly something they could hold off on. The greenhouse is actually represented here as the footprint of the structure next to the building. It is a open-sided polycarbonate roof, like semi-opaque roof structure. Yep, translucent panels. This should really protect the new plants and or fertilizers, outdoor materials.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that if it's on the site plan, then the building department can issue a building permit for it. That's
Correct.
want to make sure it's
Yeah.
clear. So if it's on there, then we're all good.
It's shown as the proposed garden center. We could rename it as the greenhouse if it's clear, whatever.
Maybe
Guys-
/ greenhouse.
Shade structure,
Yeah.
shade structure, something.
Yeah, so let's be clear so that there's no issues when you're applying for a building permit. It's a garden center / greenhouse.
Sure, we
Yeah.
can do that, no problem.
Is that what
Yeah, and-
Merchny? Is that what Merchny is?
Well,
MER?
actually, yeah, the Merchant Garden, is, I believe that is and Matt can clarify, Matt is here from Tractor Supply. I believe that's just a prefab structure that's built, but what, if you continue reading in that note, that's in the handout that we provided, the garden center is constructed with translucent panels, which is what makes it a greenhouse. So on the architectural drawings, that's an excerpt of the drawings that were submitted that shows the garden center with the translucent panels. And then on the next page is our site plan, and the garden center that's shown on page 2, shows the location of that, and we can clarify that to include the term greenhouse, so there's no confusion. And then on the third page, there's actually an image that was taken from another Tractor Supply Company store to give you an idea of what this, greenhouse component looks like.
Okay, that helps because I hadn't heard of Merchny before. Is it a brand name or?
I believe it's where they get it from. Yeah.
Okay,
That's the brand.
okay, thank you.
If I could circle back to the second item that goes with the veterinary services was, Tractor Supply offers just a free self-service pet washing station. And I didn't want that to be missed from the discussion tonight. I don't know if that's appropriate now or if that's for after the public hearing.
No, I think that the self-service, I don't think that's an issue. I think
No.
there were some other issues that maybe picked up later on with the zoning for pet care services, which
Correct.
I think will cover all of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. So members of the commission, Matt Darling, I represent Tractor Supply. I just, wanted to make sure that it was clear. I think it is clear, and I appreciate that clarification on the pet care services. Tractor Supply does offer, it's not free. It is a paid service where the customer will can bring their own pet and wash them inside of the store. It is not a grooming service. Tractor Supply doesn't do any of the grooming themselves. So I'm glad to hear that is allowable in the use. That's an allowable use in this particular development at this moment. So whereas the veterinary services, we can hold off on that for now. But it was really important that we would get the pet washing ability this evening.
I was under the impression the veterinary service is a separate structure or within a separate, its own structure, for lack of its own confinement area.
Most likely it would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I open the public hearing, is there any other board member comments? Or are you both done?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Then open the public hearing if there's anyone who'd like to speak on this matter. No? Does the board feel comfortable closing the public hearing?
Yes.
I'll make a motion. We close the public hearing.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will we accept comments for the next 10 business? days
Yes.
as you-
Written comments for the next 10 days. Absolutely.
The architectural review board hasn't seen this yet, right?
I don't know that.
What is the comment?
You
The ARB board?
you haven't met with the architectural review board yet?
We have not.
No, we have not. We've been with the zoning board of appeals and with your board.
So I would suggest just,
Signage.
yeah, for the
Signage,
signage, yeah, you should get on the ARB's next meeting.
Run the signage by them.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that they've been
They'll have,
provided copies of the application, but just got on the board for their.
We'll do that.
And Mr. Chairman, is it the board's pleasure to have staff prepare a resolution for the next meeting?
That's what I was just going to ask everyone. Obviously, we some things to tidy up.
Are we comfortable without answers to comments? To be able to do this without the answers in hand?
To the engineering comments?
Yes.
Yes, I'm comfortable with that. I've also separately met with the applicant's engineer to review the comments. We made sure that they understood them. And I don't think that their response to any comments are going to change the application before the board. It's more just internal changes within the SWIP for the record.
And then I just, one additional question that popped into my head. With these grooming services, is there any consideration for additional gray water now? Because we're gonna have like shampooing services and washing, or is there already enough capacity to handle that, right?
There's sanitary sewer service to the site. And I think that the nature of the use is captured in the wastewater demand estimates that are in their environmental impact, their environmental assessment form.
All right, thank you.
All of the wastewater from there's only 2 tubs that are offered for the service, and it's all filtered within the store. The piping is exposed below the tubs. The tubs are set about 3 or 4 feet off the ground. So occasionally the staff will go in there and clean the filters out. So there will be gray water, but it will be just water. There won't be any particulates in that water.
Thank you.
I'm sure Vicky would like to have her dog over for the first bath, wouldn't you, Vicky?
I have a wonderful groomer.
So then, board's okay to direct staff to prepare a resolution
yes.
for our next meeting? Is that enough time?
Very well. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we direct our esteemed planner to prepare a resolution for our review for the next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Great. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
You
much.
guys have a good night.
Thank
Good night.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the project review for Michael Burrell and Nicole Stern for their proposed subdivision of the parcel adjacent to the Green Tree Road. For the record, this is the Green Tree Road through right of way in New York State DOT easement areas. The property is located in the R80 zone district. It's for a proposed preliminary subdivision and open development area. And it's 2 parcels into 3 residential lots, which will be accessed off the Green Tree Road. Good evening.
Evening. My name is Peter Scott, representing the applicant tonight. Thank you for all coming to the site walk. It was interesting to show you the site. When we finished the site walk, we were basically interested in discussing an option which we presented on a plan before you, would be dedicating part of what we call lot number 3 to the town of Somers, because there's land beyond that, which is owned by the town of Somers, and potentially it would be a connection point from the bike trail to that particular parcel. So I'm referring to a little triangle area right here. Again, this lot is excessive in size. It's 5.2 acres, but we do have about about 3/4 of an acre, which is in this location here, and it could potentially would contain the stream that runs through the site. As per our site walk, we noticed that there's a channel running through here. And also it encompasses a small parcel on the other side of the road, which also encompasses part of the stream corridor. We're offering it to the town basically because it would provide protection to it. There's a wall on the property to which we'd abut our proposed parcel. And in doing so, you would have a trail access to your town of Somers parcel through a portion of the lot, which is not within the 100-foot buffer of a existing stream course. It's a win-win. It's something to think about anyway. It really doesn't do anything for our project because lot number 3, the remaining portion that would remain, is far beyond the size required per your zoning. It's something that we'd like to present to you anyway for potential future discussion. The other thing we did per our site visit is we did talk about looking at a tighter grouping of our proposed development. Each house, again, shows a house site, a pool, a septic system, a well. And for treatment, we're using bioretention basins, which are ideal for treating effluent stormwater discharge, from particular house sites. And we have them proposed on the site in a much tighter pattern. What we also did is we had basins down here originally. We moved everything up close to the subject development areas. Bioretention basins could be within 35 feet of a septic system. It's ideal for tight groupings that were discussed here. We walked through the site, as you know, through our crossing point. There was a question from a memo from the New York City DEP, I believe. And what we're proposing is a detention basin and a rain garden to treat the discharge from our roadways. And we'd have the similar system across the bike trail as well for a small area. Another question that DEP had in one of our comment memos is we're proposing a crossing. As you all saw during our site walk, there's an existing 18-inch pipe on the site. We're crossing right over that pipe. So we're not disturbing the wetlands on each side of it, which consists of a shallow ditch, which receives runoff from our adjacent neighbors to the north. And that discharges into this wetland over here. So we took your comments, we incorporated into a plan. And we'd like to move forward with the project. And there's a couple of things we'd like to touch upon if we could. We did have our wetland consultants locate all the wetland flags. We were hoping that they could be confirmed by one of your consultants so we could move along and sort of move past this one component. We do have slope maps prepared. And again, we have to submit an estimate of fees for disturbances of the steep slopes, but we're hoping that we could establish the fees after we work out your consultant's review of some environmental conditions which potentially could affect some of the layouts we have here. We've also submitted some packages out to the to representatives of the fire department to approve the K-turns that we have for our safety access to the site. We're also going to send a package to the police department for any comments they might have on this as well for the project. In the field, we did talk about something about potentially putting some sort of common refuse container here at the end of the Green Tree Road near the cul-de-sac to reduce the amount of garbage trucks basically driving through the bike path. We're amenable to that, but it would be only way we could do it would be within lands currently part of a right of way of Green Tree Road. So we'd have to look into how that would be physically possible. I also sent some pictures over after the site walk. I went bike riding and I took pictures of all the crossings that they have on the bike trail up to the Beacon Newbury Bridge and back. But basically, we gave a whole listing or options of what's out there right now. We will talk to the Parks and Rec for what they recommend. And again, all the statements that were made about this in the comment letters we received were agreeable. We were agreeable to complete those. Rumble strip signage. There's about 4 different types of signage out there, and we can talk about aesthetics and what option you like to go with. We're amenable to whatever your board or the Parks and Rec would like to place on the site. Again, what I found through my little bike trip saga is you're supposed to stop and dismount when you go to a crossing, which is established by signage. What technically takes place from my viewing of other people is everyone just slows down and then moves across at a reduced speed. But I didn't see, in fact, we saw evidence north of here is that they did try to put posts in the middle of the bike path, but they've been removed since. And all they really do is rely on signage for a potential crossing. That's the findings I have from the visit. And if I can answer any questions or move forward on this.
Didn't we also talk about moving the mailboxes out to there too?
Yes, we'd be amenable to that as well. It'd be one aesthetic, we'd prepare plans of an aesthetic development, which would combine the mailboxes and a container.
The post office decides where the mailbox goes.
Yeah, we'd be in their office pretty quickly to discuss options.
They decide.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they approve. I don't think they decide.
Yeah.
Is there a gate across the driveways?
Yes, the old easement did have a gate across it. When I looked at all these other easements across the property in my travels on the bike path, there were no real fences there except at the prison. There's a prison on the bike trail. And we did find one in Hopewell Junction. They had fences across because that's where a DEC containment area was. So we're going to talk to the DOT who granted the easement to us and see if we could potentially get a waiver in regards having the fence. I think when they did this a while ago, they didn't have the experience they have elsewhere on the trail. And so we're going to look at appealing that. If not, we would just put electrically operated gate if we had to, worst case. And that would be on it's on this side. They want it on the east side of the bike path.
Dave and Steve, do you want to make some comments before we hear board member comments?
Yeah, I think the overall the consolidating, the tightening up of the site plan is good for that site and will probably help your constructability on that. One element that it's probably worth some additional conversation with you and your wetland consultant would be the town code does have a requirement for mitigation measures for disturbance within the wetland buffer.
Yes.
And so whether that would occur on the 3/4 of an acre site or elsewhere is something that will have to get added to the plan.
Yeah, we normally would meet with your consultants and then we have no problem mitigating it. Typically, it's a 2-to-1. We've used in other projects. It's just where to put it is the most important question. And we'd be willing to either improve the biological diversity of this wetland area here, or we can work on the stream banks, which basically are heavily eroded. There's a lot of opportunity in that site.
The owner of the property south of the access easement that you were referring to the first time, that wetland is whom? That property there?
This area here?
Yes.
It is the retirement trust.
Okay.
Stephen Davis.
Not town property and not property that.
No, this is privately owned. The closest town-owned property is over here.
Right. Okay. So there's obviously some engineering work and some environmental work to be done, but we're in conversation and we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the notice of intent to act as lead agency was circulated.
Okay.
You received comments back from New York City DEP, New York State DOT, and Westchester County, none of whom objected to your board acting as lead agency for the coordinated review. In the submission package or the review package that I had provided to the board, I included a document that Mr. Riley had shared with this office regarding the 280A process that we're going through now. And procedurally, this board needs to conclude the seeker process and make a recommendation to the town board. Just want to make sure that that's clear for you and for the members of the public so that once seeker is concluded, then the matter goes to the town board, and the town board would render a decision on the open development area, granting of an open development area. And that would actually allow for the subdivision to move forward. So at this point, the applicant has received comments from staff. You've gotten comments from the various other agencies. You may have some additional comments from the board, but I think it's important for the applicant to provide as much information so that your board can respond to the environmental review. And what I can do perhaps going forward is one of the documents that would help in this matter is part 2 of the environmental assessment form, which I can provide to you. And this really provides a guide as to what is a significant adverse impact, so that the applicant can provide you with information. You can digest it and consider that, so that at some future date in the near future, you would be able to render a decision, make a determination of significance of environmental impact on the application.
Okay.
Question for you,
Yes.
Dave. When we review that document, do we have to, for the record, read each line out and then determine or state for the record how we voted on that?
Every board does it
Right.
differently.
I've seen that in different jurisdictions.
Yeah.
So
You can, sometimes when you're going through a particular category and there's no impact, then that it completely eliminates the review of those factors. But there are, impact on land where you're talking about construction and disturbance to steep slopes and removal of vegetation. Those are things that you want to consider, and whether they're a small impact or a minor impact. And so that this form will help you going forward, making that determination, because that's really your next step, is to make the determination of significance under seeker.
Okay.
Helps us focus.
Board member comments? Questions for the applicant, for staff?
I had a couple of questions. I didn't see a memo from staff that summarized the site walk, but I did see a memo from you. And in there, you mentioned the straight nature of the trailway as it sort of goes through the intersection, kind of like it was a positive thing. And I think that we observed that there was a negative quality to that long straightaway, in that bicyclists can gather up, and we did see a great deal of speed. So I just wanted to sort of, for the record, say that there is in the record this document, and these are the impressions of the applicant, not of the planning board necessarily. So I think it's kind of spun in a very positive way, the straightaway, but I think I certainly observed the negative side of that too. So it's one thing I just wanted to say. Another was that after having left this site, and as I thought about it more, I was kind of reflecting on what possible impact this might have on that cul-de-sac, that Green Tree cul-de-sac, because we're creating a new entrance to the trailway. And so will this attract people to that area
to park
their cars and
Use the trailway.
to as a point of access to the trailway, and what impact that might have on the neighborhood. And there was something else, but now it's gone out of my head. But those, I think, were the two most concerning things.
Good
that I just
point.
wanted to say.
Right. Again, there's two ways to look at that. There's a path there right now that people are using to get to the bike path
Correct.
in the neighborhood. We can either prevent that or we could assist in it. So it's something that I guess the board can think about. We can either put in detrimental components such as no trespassing signs, et cetera, to make it illegal to access that, or we could make a dedicated path along this driveway so that people could continue utilizing it. It's really just something up to the board to sort of think about. Again,
I mean, if we went into that realm, I would want to get opinions on those that live on Green Tree.
sure.
If they agree that they like their own custom access, we can't limit that to the general public either, right? So they would have to understand that parking for someone that lives in a different section of town could happen, right?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Like if we're, it can't be exclusive access for those that live on Green Tree. So if we permit it to happen, or I shouldn't say permit it to happen, but if we don't require you all to put no trespassing signs and other things, there should be the understanding for the neighbors, that you could have people who don't live on Green Tree access the trailway from there.
Real quick response. I did a project near State Park just recently. And in that project, we ended up putting no parking signs on the cul-de-sac. That's how we solved that problem, because we had the same discussion on another project. And it's about a year and a half ago. It's successful. No one's using it for parking. So
Yeah, I mean, again, it would be, I think the default position should be that we restrict access to that area unless the neighbors do want it, but that they need to understand that then that's public access. That's not private to those that live on Green Tree. We've had local communities try to hyper localize amenities on their block, so to speak, specifically with DEP watercourses.
Yep.
And I don't feel like we can isolate that just to those that live there, right? The trailway is a public trailway. It's a DOT managed, but it's there for the people to use as a recreational facility. And if we now only allow a certain demographic, those that live on Green Tree, to come in there using that access way, it has to be for the greater good of everyone, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, it gets even more complicated because you're talking about donating land to the town.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
that was my other question, was related to that. With the stream going through, and this is a question for you, Steve. If the town was to accept donation of that type of land, does with that, and I hate to use the word flow, responsibility for maintenance of that stream in terms of removing sediment or whatever, to make sure that it's, and what kind of benefits versus liabilities, responsibilities are tied up within that as a consideration?
Yeah, it already goes through the property. The stream does continue through through this town of Somers property.
Mhm.
It's just it's an access point. We're going more toward the headwaters of it with that potential.
I would think that any trail would be at least 100 feet away from the stream anyway.
Yeah.
Any trail, pathway going.
Yeah, it's down
through
in
there
here, 100 feet away. Yeah.
would be well away from the stream.
I don't believe
It
there's
should
any active public access or recreational opportunities on that town parcel now. It's just kind of, I think what the applicant is pointing out is, hey, this would be a nice connectivity point if the town so wished for that,
For future development.
for whatever the town might want to do. But yes, the short answer is, when there's a stream on town property, the town has a responsibility, to maintain its property.
Okay,
And so this would obviously be more property to maintain and would be part of that decision.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just one comment on your observation about how it was portrayed, the straightaway being a positive. I think it is a positive from the perspective of a vehicle driving on the driveway because it's nice and straight. And so now I have a better point of view to see bicycles coming. But to your point, that straightaway, which we all saw firsthand, is a speedway now for cyclists who are not maintaining, proper distances from pedestrians and things along those lines. So we kind of have a double-edged sword situation here. And I'm not sure what the DOT regulations are regarding bumps and traffic control for the cycle path. It's very clear how the vehicle path needs to be. But now, in light of that, I would have a concern for the cyclists that we need to ensure that they're aware that there is this crossing and that they need to slow down because, again, not to belittle the point, but we saw firsthand how fast those cyclists go when we did our site walk, which when one collided with me. And so, that kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, yes, it is ideal for a motorist, assumably a homeowner now who's entering through as a driveway. The straightaway is nice because now you could see from a distance, there's no blind turns and all of a sudden there's a cyclist or someone pushing a stroller. But on the flip side, we saw that the cyclist can get a lot of speed. So I think the traffic control needs to be a sort of a two-way street, so to speak. So both the driveway and the cyclist to protect them from their own cycling at high rates of speed.
I don't know if it's possible, but
I agree. I don't know if it's possible, but it's something that I think we should consider.
On the trailway, if you put a speed bump,
right,
a bike coming at 30 miles an hour might have a broken bike.
Well, I mean, that's true, but then the homeowner's vehicle becomes a speed bump, and now we've got,
No. I'm talking about on the trailway itself.
Right. I agree with you, but I do think that there needs some sort of signage or I mean, again, I don't know what the DOT regulations are to control the cyclists.
Excuse me, I'm a user of the bike path for many years. And speeding cyclists has been an issue always.
Right.
Especially further south in Yorktown and for pedestrians, and it's an ongoing problem. So it will not be unique to this spot.
Right.
It is an ongoing
I think having a crossing, and it's what I observed, because I've been on the bike path a lot. What happens is basically everyone kind of slows down. Even cars will typically stop, and you'll have this like visual cueing between each other, who goes first and who doesn't. But typically the bike riders will slow down and then go through that intersection. But it is posted that they're supposed to come to a full stop. But to be candid with you, most people cross at like 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to ensure that there's signage, right? Now, I think from a liability standpoint, if we don't sign it and then there's an incident involving cyclist versus vehicle.
liability.
Right, exactly.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah,
And that may be for you as the applicant to consider that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And not so much the town. I don't know how much responsibility we have as the town on that state, right away.
Yeah, one good thing about having common people on a right of way is they'll have a shared maintenance agreement, which will have insurance requirements for the crossing. It's easier to get multiple people to do it versus one person to do it. I've found in the years of practice, and we'll prepare that for your satisfaction.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if it amounts to traffic calming, whatever it is, but it's something, because yes, you have a longer sight range, but they're going so fast and they're so narrow.
Right.
And we were there between 9 and 10 in the morning. And what would happen at dusk?
Correct.
I mean, he was wearing these bright pink bike pants with stripes. Maybe he thought we could see him because of that, but no, we couldn't.
Right. No, I know. I mean, and again, I don't want to burden you all with having to manage traffic control on the bike path, but I also, at the same token, I'm looking to protect all parties involved, right? The homeowners that ultimately purchase these homes, and then the cyclists that use it. Many of them are Somers residents that walk and cycle. So I would just want to see a sort of a holistic approach that covers all bases, not just the DOT requirement that you have to have your cars be cautious, because we saw that it's not necessarily the cars, but there was certainly an issue with the cyclists as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the only
Yeah.
point that I'm bringing out regarding the crossing itself.
Can't put the posts.
What was especially special about what happened to you in the middle of that incident? Not in the middle of it, but within seconds, along came a mother with a baby carriage.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, sidewalks are obviously very informational for us to get the picture in, but these were some additional details that it was very enlightening, to see and experience firsthand.
And it wasn't even staged.
That's true.
Any other board member comments or?
Yeah, we'll have some additional engineering comments that will follow on from the discussion here on the updated plan. And so we'll get those issued to the board and to the applicant for their review and to address.
And just to realize this is a sketch plan. We haven't gone to the next step. We were hoping to get the wetland line confirmed. And then we go into full SWIP and drainage production.
We'll work with you to get that scheduled
Right.
and reviewed.
Thanks.
And I want to say too, it was a very well organized sidewalk.
Oh, thanks.
It's a beautiful site. And I think it's well designed, and the way you took us through it and the extended walk you took was very helpful to me. So I really appreciate the time that you put into it and yeah,
No problem.
very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we're set.
I don't think you'll have many trick or treaters there, quite frankly.
Not yet.
Yes.
I don't think ever.
Right.
I've lived in the town 14 years, and I can count on no fingers how many trick-or-treaters have come to my house. It's been none, literally. So I get it. There are sections that just aren't, conducive to kids running around and trick-or-treating. So this may be one of them, just because of its austere location.
Do you have any questions for us?
I think we're all set. I guess we'll work with the consultants and move that along. Westchester County testing is being scheduled shortly. We will be crossing that area with backhoes, machines to dig the holes. That's the only activities that we want to report to you beyond meeting with the consultants. But it's moving along well. And again, the more feedback I can get from the consultants, we can tune this project up to meet any needs that they come up with.
Good. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is two referrals to the planning board. One is a zoning text amendment to allow pet care services as a permitted principal use in the CS, which is Community Shopping District. So Dave, you want to bring us up to speed on that?
Yeah. So a while back, Mr. Biddle had approached the town because he has potentially, he wants to have the ability to incorporate a pet care services of doggy daycare. There's Mr. Biddle. As a permitted use within the shopping center. It's not currently permitted now. So we put together and worked with Mr. Biddle to come up with some language. It's currently being considered by the town board that would allow for pet care services as a permitted use in the CS district. So what you have before you is the petition. There's an environmental assessment form. The services would be part of a site plan approval before your board. There is, and this is modeled after a couple of different ordinances. I think the principal was in North Clarkstown, where there was an issue where if you had outdoor conditions where you were walking, if you had you need to walk the pets outdoors, that there's a site limitation on within the applicant shall provide a survey that shows the full extent of the areas on the site which may be occupied by pets. The survey shall demonstrate that any area on the site that may be occupied by pets is at least 200 feet from a residential property line in the R40 or the PH zoning districts. And then they have to show that they'll mitigate any noise or odors as a result of that operation. And I certainly think that these types of uses are they're regulated by Westchester County Department of Health. They're typically, very well used. They're very well run, the ones that I've seen. So that's kind of an overview of the proposed zoning.
Well, pet care services is not a veterinary. It's like a boarding.
Yeah, yeah. So the definition is a daytime care service establishment for dogs, cats, and occasionally other small household pets. Facility may also provide overnight boarding and hygiene/grooming services. In contrast to breeding or boarding kennels, these facilities focus on delivering amenity-rich services geared toward pets and their owners, and may include a retail space offering an assortment of associated pet care products. The breeding and or selling of animals at these facilities is not permitted.
How do they determine the number of, for lack of a better word, stalls, kennels, whatever you want to say? Like how many can be kept overnight, et cetera?
Yeah,
or even during the day? Does that go by square footage?
Probably square footage, probably Board of Health.
Okay.
You did say, because your voice dropped, you did say that there would be no sale of animals, correct? Pets?
The breeding and or selling of animals at these facilities is not permitted.
Right.
So that's
State law.
kind of an overview.
So it's daycare for pets.
Yes, yeah, it's daytime care. There may be some boarding, overnight boarding.
But not,
That's all interior.
not breeding and not
No.
veterinarian,
No, not veterinarian, no.
daycare center.
Daycare, right.
But it can be overnights.
Yes, could have overnight.
So if somebody went away for a week, they could board their pet there.
Exactly.
Oh, that's nice.
I have a question regarding the use of the site for pets, in that from personal experience, I know that if you take a pet into any care center, a vet or otherwise, when you exit that facility, the dog or cat, whatever, will typically try to relieve itself, for lack of a better way to put that. And there is no place, from what I have seen, that can take place. Furthermore, there's a bus stop in front of that piece of property. So how is that going to affect walkers to and from Tractor Supply or any of the other businesses along that strip, as well as people trying to get to the bus with waste on the sidewalk?
And taking that one step further, Jack, most people, if they didn't do it at their own house, would want their dog to relieve themselves before they go in, so that there's not a mess in the facility too. It's in and out a lot of times.
That's
I'm just talking about what I do a lot of times.
Yep.
The dog's nervous on the ride over.
Does forgive my ignorance on this, but does the town have a cleanup law? Like if your dog,
Yes, the state law is you are responsible for your animal waste. That's a state law.
Okay, so then if there was signage there, just to remind folks that if your dog does that.
There has to be a place to do number one.
Yep.
If I'm here, I could address that if you'd like.
Sure.
We have not, this is Willing Biddle from Erstep Biddle Properties. We have not identified a location in the shopping center where this would go yet, because it's not permitted by zoning.
No.
Our intention is to obtain the town board's approval of this and then market it. We recently leased to a entity called K9 Resorts in New Jersey. And it looks like it will be a very successful location. And I hear you about the pet relief area. That would be taken into account when we design where the facility would go. And we would certainly make sure that the owners clean up after themselves, and we'd have doggy bags on a on a post. And we don't want to have a mess in the shopping center.
All right, yeah, and I think that, like, to the council's point, I think that would be then, once the approval goes through, then the individual site plan, we can now say that, hey, let's reminder, we need to ensure that the dogs don't relieve themselves, on the sidewalk or on a fire hydrant or whatever the case may be, as they're predisposed to do it as it is. I have a question. So why hasn't it been permitted in the past? Do we have some line of sight as to why this was prohibited? Was it an oversight? We just didn't include it. It wasn't specific.
The uses, it's, if it's not explicitly permitted, it's prohibited.
Understood. And that was my
That's the law.
question, right? I want to ensure that we didn't have a problem years ago
No.
with something that
No.
we, a kennel that was rogue.
No,
You look at Nancy when you say years
Well,
ago.
because
The
she's,
whole of the
no,
history.
hold on. I'm not gonna, you can't trap me with that one.
No.
Because she was and is still, in my heart, our town historian.
No, don't say that.
So therein lies why she's my SME when it comes to anything from the past. I just wanted to make sure that we're not sort of overturning something that, was a problem, even if it was in the 50s. I just wanted to have like some sort of insight as to why. So if it was just never incorporated in the language, understandable, right? I got that part.
So just two things for you. As a fail-safe for what Jack brought up, if this does get approved, when the site plan comes before us, we can control these concerns.
Yes.
And are you looking for tonight for a yay or a nay from us, kind of?
The town board is holding a public hearing tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So that's why this matter is on your agenda,
Okay.
so that if you have an opportunity, if you feel comfortable in a yay or nay or a recommendation.
Well, then I'll just
pass that-
go around the board and everybody tell me how you feel.
No objection.
Yeah, I don't have any objections. I mean, I think that the CS zoning is, it's a shopping district, right? So we're not trying to embed potential noise nuisance ingrained into a tightly regulated residential area. So I don't have a problem with it. I'd be concerned if we were trying to get a variance for like an R80 to put some sort of kenneling facility, but up in the shopping center, I think this is a positive thing for pet owners.
And I guess if we did get concerned about the size, we could always ask them to reduce the size if we were worried about noise.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's always room for future legislation to ensure that does get restricted or something.
What do you feel?
And we get a
I'm
crack at the site.
comfortable with it. I know the hearing is tomorrow night, and I did take an opportunity late last week, seeing this coming down the pike, to speak to somebody on the town board and ask them what their feeling was regarding dealing with pet waste. And it had not been brought up during their initial discussions. So they now have an awareness that is a question. And as long as they pay attention to it, I'm fine with it.
And we will have the final say. Rest of the board?
No problem.
Yes.
I'm fine with it. I mean, my dogs have gone to daycare since 2009. So I've got some familiarity with it. And in terms of pet waste, by the time if you are a consumer of the services of the daycare facility, you're walking your dog on the grass. We all have a vested interest in picking it up. It does not become a big issue. Because you're the next person to step in it, so to speak. So everybody does a
Literally, yeah.
where I go, it does a pretty good job of picking it up. So I think it's can be a really good service for people to be able to use. So yeah.
I also don't have any comments. So I think we're unanimous. I mean, I have any objection. I'm sorry.
No
Yeah.
objections, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I would say parking, you do want to consider how you have your drop-offs and pickups going on, enough room, because realistically what happens is doors, similar to a situation where you're using the disability parking, doors to be enough room, doors can open up wide enough for a dog to jump in. You don't want to be in a high traffic area because you'll have the backs of cars and dogs going in. Sometimes dogs are a little older, they need a little time to get in. So it's some of the pragmatic, realistic things that you do need to sort of, I'm not obsessed with slowing down traffic, but you don't want to have that happening in a high traffic area because it's a matter of rounding them up and picking them up, and it can be a finesse job to do that. So
I think that could be addressed as part of.
discussion for a future day, but it's something that's got to be considered as you do it.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll prepare a recommendation.
all right.
Present that to the town board tomorrow night.
So next is, the second referral is, zoning text amendment to exclude, I think this is going to be really easy, I shouldn't say, to exclude drive-through restaurants and convenience retail in the BHP district.
Agreed.
Agreed.
And I didn't think we needed a discussion on that. I would be very surprised.
Yeah, no, I've opined in the past.
I was going to say long overdue, but
We don't need a Burger King.
okay.
What's that?
We don't need a
No.
Burger King.
No.
I think you got that one, huh? Yeah. I'm assuming you've already prepared the notes on that.
Yes.
Do you want to go around a room just for the record?
Yeah,
So that we're all,
No objections?
Anybody
Yeah.
that feels real strong tonight and would like to oppose that, please raise their hand.
yeah,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
yeah, I think we should continue to prohibit that from happening in that district.
Okay.
Plenty other places we could put it in the
Right
town.
here,
right?
that's,
Not,
that's just
Yeah, we're right where we are. Exactly.
where we are now.
Yep.
We don't need it.
And last on our discussion is the meeting dates of 2023. Before we get into it, I just want to bring up something that was brought up to me by staff upstairs and throw this out for discussion. A hypothetical. An applicant comes to us first time. We review it. And then you come back with your comments. Dave comes back with his comments. They come back the second time and there's some suggestions, some things that need to be clarified. This is really the second review. The time, if they're going to come back at the next meeting, the time in between that is shortened. So I guess the pluses and minuses is that it's the second time around. So theoretically, we've flushed out a lot after the first time, but it's still a short time. I'm wondering, is there something we can do with a different date for an applicant to come back to make the next meeting? Now, the first time we can control that because we don't put them on the agenda, but you know where I'm coming from?
Is the shortened time that you're referring to the time that the applicant has to revise their plans?
Correct. And then into your hands and then ultimately into our hands.
So what we see happen sometimes is with the submittal deadline on the Wednesday, 2 weeks before the meeting. Someone will come in late in the day, might drop it off. It might be paper only. They may not have the electronic version in there. And it may take until Friday to be distributed to you, to
Right.
us. Which puts us in the position really of 3 working days to review and provide a memo so that you as a board have a week to review it prior to this meeting. Most of the times it's not a problem. You know, if the application is simple, if the application is complete, if no one has Thursday and Friday off that week to be able to transmit things. With larger projects, it becomes a difficult task to turn things around that quickly, even if everything is in order. We suggested for the board's consideration moving that date up to the end of the prior week. We suggested Thursday, it could be Friday.
10 days instead of.
Which would give us 10 working days, essentially, by the time it gets to us to review.
But what does that do to the applicant? I mean, I'm
It
not
does
taking
shorten their
sides
time
here. I'm just trying-
There's only so many days in between meetings,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a push and pull between the two.
I'm assuming that after we flushed it out the first time, everybody's been through it, is going to be like, oh, let's just take Green Tree. All right. We've
Yeah.
been through that quite a bit. And correct me, there's not going to be a lot of major changes to that between now and the next couple of submittals. You're going to have to wait for things to come in, but they're not taking days and days and days to revise. They're waiting for a lot of information to come in.
They do have a lot of information to develop on that particular project. So we do expect that is one of the projects that we do expect to get a lot of information in, and that it will be a relatively tight turnaround.
Well, I guess this one
for something like the cell phone. Sorry.
What I'm getting at is they're not going to be under a lot of pressure to get it to us because quite frankly, the next meeting, we're probably not going to be ready to approve it. There's going to be some more flushes out.
The applicants do get our comments when you get
Right.
comments. The piece that the applicants don't have that they need to wait to address are any board comments and discussion that come from the meeting. And there's kind of no accelerating that. Moving the submittal date does put more burden on the applicant to turn their submittals around faster.
Mm.
And it's always a push and pull. The thing that we're trying to avoid is the 3-day review period because it was an incomplete submittal when it came in. We want to try to get it on the meeting, and that's the challenge.
If we're dealing with a 2 or 3 lot subdivision, I can understand the normal. But if we're dealing with a hidden meadow.
Yes, yes.
You guys need more than 3 days.
Yes, you do.
So I
Exactly.
absolutely can support for larger projects and commercial projects, extending the time another week.
Is this, I don't know if the board ever sets one-off submittal dates where kind of this is the calendar, but for this project, we want it by a certain date for review. Hasn't come up in my time.
Can we do that legally?
That's,
Yeah.
that would be a very
It's
smart
own
thing to do.
regulations as to that. But if you know, it's gonna be difficult to define what's a big project and what's a little project.
And different stages of the project may require more or less time.
I gotta,
My suggestion would be for you to make a proposal, okay, and then we can and think it out. But it shouldn't be, you know, something that's subjective. That's what you don't want. And I don't think the applicants would want, you know, subjectivity. What are we, a big problem?
Yeah, right.
yeah, you'd have to say like if it includes a land disturbance greater than X amount of square feet, and if there's a water course and a SWIP is necessary, and this is, I mean, that'll end up being then individual reviews at submission, which I don't think we have the bandwidth to do.
What I'm hearing is that you guys would like it and need it. The time,
More time.
and then the problem would be for the applicant, well.
It becomes less time.
problem.
Right, yeah, so that's,
Time is
I'm
money.
gonna agree with you, because I was gonna ask you, Chairman, is your concern in bringing the point out to help benefit the applicant or to
Both.
assist us?
Both.
Both.
Because I don't know how that will help us except having to rush things, and I think.
No. I just didn't, I hated to see the applicant be under the gun and maybe have to miss a meeting. That's, I guess,
I mean,
so
I
be
know,
it. But I don't want us to get it with 2 days review either.
Right, which,
But we
right,
could
for them
ask-
to force, engineering decisions that have to get rushed where they may,
Like phone tag on a.
right,
particular matter.
exactly,
As we're deliberating with an applicant in front of us,
right.
and we say to that applicant, can you address these items by such and such a date? Keeping in mind that they need the extra time. So we're giving that applicant the opportunity to say yes or no. And if the answer is no, then we have to extend it for another meeting.
Right.
And if the answer is yes and it's not in, well, then it's going to be the next meeting too.
I mean,
You had your chance, yeah.
I
But
don't,
you can build it into the,
Back and forth, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's liberating banter, like you said.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
The challenge is often sometimes the quality of the resubmittal as well.
Mm.
So it's not even, can you address it? Yes, I can address it, and we get it, and
Right, they
And that
rush it too
happens.
now, right? Because
And they're
they're
rushing
trying
it,
to
that's
get
of
it in
less
3
quality.
days, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then you have to do the phone tag and go back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, look how quick they try to get the phones, the antenna stuff done. I mean, that's a perfect example. If they had their way, it would be 2 meetings.
they had their way there.
If they had their way, they would cite federal
Yeah,
regulations
that's true.
and
Yeah.
circumvent us
Yeah,
completely.
oh, that too.
By the way,
Right, which we
You're right.
continually remind them that's not how it works.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be a meeting, you're
Right,
right.
exactly. No, I get that. And that's why I say, listen, a majority of the applicants that we see, none of this is spontaneous emergency, like, oh my God, my house collapsed and I need to repair this right away and I need to go to the planning board, right? Most of this, like in the case of the subdivision, they don't even have customers yet, right? So there's certainly a lot of time to be able to go back and forth and get this through. I mean, it's
And get it right.
and get it right. And I think that's where we need to, environmental impact. It's a lifetime of problems. We see with the contamination from 1991, we're still dealing with it today, right? So if we overlook something because we rush it to try to ease the pain of an applicant, which I can completely appreciate. I have been the victim of really protracted bureaucracy my entire life, working for multiple government agencies, right? So I get that part. But at the same token, working for those agencies, I recognize why that has to happen, right? We're not sipping scotch and having cigars in the interim. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on to ensure that everything is presented properly. It follows within the letter of the town code, as well as the environmental regulations that we're here to enforce. And I wouldn't want to see that process rushed in any way.
Yeah, and I kind of lean, if you guys want to get, I'd stay away from a subjective type thing. Let's just tweak the dates, whatever you think. More importantly for you, quite frankly. And then, yeah, because to be honest with you, what's good for you is good for us. You get it done in time, we get more time.
We get it done. It's always just what it takes to get it done.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. We did propose, moving it up to the end of the prior week from where it is now. We would, and I can review this with Dave and with staff. I think, and moving it 1 day or 2 days up probably splits the difference. And
well, you're the ones that have to feel comfortable with us.
well, I'm comfortable with that. So
Yeah, we just pontificate up here. That's
Yes.
so it's okay.
And
So
since we're having, this discussion for the record, we're now on once a month meetings. We used to meet twice a month,
That's true.
but I don't think that would necessarily have solved the problem.
No.
It would have created to return to something like that, you'd just have a whole nother set of similar problems. In the event we ever had something that we all agreed was qualified as an emergency,
That's different. That's why we have those extra dates.
could
Right.
always, so just to say, it's, you bring up the emergency situation, well, we would do what we have to do to
Right.
respond to someone's emergency. So it would have to be an emergency.
Yeah, and then we always reserve the right to open that second meeting if we have, 29 presentations that hit us, on
Yeah.
the schedule, and we can, right? I mean, that's our, we always have reserved dates for the second meeting. We just don't need them.
Right.
Like the potential for the public comment when the golf course gets sold to housing, right, Jack?
Bite your tongue, sir.
It's just a joke. It's just a joke.
I'll move when that happens.
It won't happen.
In the 80s and 90s, these meetings went on till midnight.
Oh, yeah,
They did.
absolutely. Yeah,
Felt that.
yeah, they sure did.
So we'll take.
You remember? And we'll vote on it the next meeting.
We'll take the feedback of the board out,
Yeah.
meet with staff and put a proposal.
Do you have enough time to get it ready for the next?
I will.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm
Plenty of
just
time.
Do
kidding.
you need 3 extra days? Really?
I'm good.
Okay. all right.
Thank
I'm
you.
just kidding.
I appreciate the discussion and,
All right.
and thank you.
Before I adjourn, I just want to wish everybody a healthy and more importantly, a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy everything. And our next meeting is December 14th.
Oh, wow.
We didn't discuss the dates.
We'll discuss them in December and we'll vote on them. Yep. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh, yeah,
All in favor?
So
Happy again. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. So.